Hi, so our group worked on chapter 12, which was nurturing the imagination. We've talked about process-oriented approach, which is focused on experience and exploration of tools and materials. So this is kids getting to use their materials that they choose. They are not told what materials to use, and they are not told what type of art to make. They make what they want and use their own imagination. Process art is something that is unique to each person, as everyone thinks of something different to make and create. So there is no sample for the children to follow. They can create whatever they want, and then they are able to use those materials that they want to make that art. We provided some examples of processed art that focus on children's imagination and their creativity and being able to explore some of the different materials. The benefits of a process oriented art is that children can add their own input, make their own decisions. It's very open-ended in how they can use their own imagination and creativity. And kids are really able to gain self-confidence in being able to make what they want and feel proud of what they have done. Teachers can help facilitate some more ideas, and if a child gets stuck, kind of help them along, maybe give them an open-ended question to help them further along their art. There are some challenges, which can be that some students may have a hard time figuring out what they want to make and be very unsure without some type of guidance. Me personally, that would be a problem for me. I need guidance. I need to know what to make. And so if a student has an idea of what they would like to make, there may be some frustration if it doesn't turn out exactly the way they wanted or hoped or maybe visioned for themselves. And then also another challenge is it hinders the opportunities for teachers or peers to be able to scaffold on different ideas.
Product-oriented approaches to art is centered around the outcome of the art experience, what you have at the end of the creation. This approach is where the teacher actually comes in and shows the picture to the child or to the class to have them copy exactly what they see in front of them. The activity is very structured, and the outcome of the product is all the same. So at the end of the art activity, every child's activity looks similar, and it's really limiting the children's ability to actually be creative and be individual and to express their own selves. And in slide 6, as you can see, there are pictures here of how this product-oriented art examples are displayed. Right in the first picture, you can see that obviously the teacher was painting the child's feet and their hands to create a turkey for an art, because that's what the teacher wanted. If the child was doing that, it would completely be different. And in the second picture, you can see that they actually used a fork to create flowers, and obviously the lines were already drawn for them in that picture. The third one is in the center of that picture, you can see that there's a picture displayed for the children to follow of an ocean, with a fish swimming around it. And in the last picture, obviously you can see that it's very similar to this sample that was given to them by the teacher. And this is really limiting the children's creativity in all kinds of ways. The benefits of and challenges of the product-oriented approach is the ideas for the children to ideas for children to follow. Children can actually look at something and be oh, I can do that too, and it can inspire some children. A child and the child would know what is expected of them in that situation. It's helping them with their fine motor skills, given by what the materials they are given, what kind of materials they're handed to use. They're exposed to new kinds of arts, something that they've never seen before. Because if a child goes up to an art station, they'll create whatever they want to. But in this situation, they are asked to follow a certain product or art that is wanted from them. The only challenges with this is that it limits the children's ability to showcase their own individuality. And like, it's also at the end of the product, it's like you can like look at the wall and it's all different kinds of art given with the same materials provided. It's all looks the same, and it'll be one big picture of the same kinds of art if you hang it up on the wall. And it takes away from the child's self-expression. Like, they can't truly express how they wanted to express themselves in that moment. Like, if you provide a child with different painting materials, they would do whatever they want to with that, and like they would paint their own picture. And also, with the other challenge with that is like, if it's given to a child and the teacher wasn't quite happy with it, and I think that we all tend to do that a lot, that we will go out and fix some of them, like the art stuff. Like if it's somebody painting a handprint and it's missing something at like a fingertip or something, some teachers may go out there and like take a little sponge and fix that.
So there are 3 different approaches to teaching the arts that teachers will typically use. The first one is the teacher-directed approach. This is a more product-oriented approach where the teachers are valuing what the child is creating rather than how they're creating it. The teacher will typically provide all of the materials. They'll have a set activity with like very structured instructions that they want the child to follow. They might even provide like a sample and tell the child that this is exactly what they want to see. This isn't inherently bad, but it's not really beneficial for fostering that sense of creativity in young children. The next approach is teacher as a facilitator. In this approach, the teacher is acting as a guide. They might be like providing the child a prompt, but they're not necessarily instructing the child on how to do it. They are working with the child, allowing the child to make active choices about what they want to create rather than telling the child this is what they need to create. This is more of an open-ended approach where the child has an idea of what they're going to make, but they're not really being structured on how they have to do it. And then the last approach is the child-guided approach. And in this approach, children are free to choose their own activity, their own materials. They are kind of guiding themselves through this experience. And the teacher may act as a support if the child needs it, but they aren't really an active participant in this activity. So the dramatic arts is an art form that is centered around drama and theatrics as a form of art. Most children are typically exposed to dramatic arts in early childhood through dramatic play. This is like when children will play in a toy kitchen with fake food and pretend to cook, or they might play with baby dolls and pretend to feed them and rock them. This is all types of dramatic play, and there are a lot of ways that dramatic play can be incorporated into the classroom. Some classrooms will use puppets, and children can use those either in their own play or when they're reading stories. Most classrooms in early childhood will have a dramatic play area. They usually incorporate a lot of props and costumes and different materials that children can use and explore. Another way that children will engage in dramatic play is through storytelling or role playing. They might make up a story about somebody going to the store and whatever they bought, or they might role play as a doctor and have to think about what they need to do for their patients. And yeah, these are all big ways that children will learn and develop through the dramatic arts. In this photo, you can see different examples of how children might engage in dramatic arts in the classroom. First, we have a child playing with puppets. This is a way that children can express themselves and they can identify characters. And it's also kind of a form of role play as well, because they are playing a character through that puppet. At the next one, we have a dramatic play area. This has different props, different costumes that the children can use. There's different themes that are incorporated into the dramatic play center. So there are different ways that the children can use this. And then at the end, we have children that are using masks to tell stories. They are really getting a sense of how characters and how to act out characters. And
using the masks can also really help them with identifying who the characters are and making those connections to stories. So the dramatic arts have a lot of benefits on young children. Since a lot of this is dramatic play, children are um, learning to use social skills and work together. So they might be coming up with stories or games or even role playing together. So they are learning to take turns, think about what other children may want, and putting others' needs not necessarily before their own, but thinking about others when they are playing. Um, they are also learning how to develop their speech and language. They might be using words and phrases that they've heard in movies, books, on TV shows, things they've heard their parents say, things they've heard other individuals, maybe in a service industry, say, and they are repeating those and using that as a guide to their play. Another way children develop is with their problem solving skills. Children really benefit from this in dramatic play because they are learning to, again, work together with other children. So not all children will play together the same way. So there has to be compromise and there has to be collaboration. And sometimes this also involves coming up with different ways that they will enact their play and altering what their wants to fit in with what somebody else might want. It can also help with creative thinking skills and their imagination because they are coming up with new and creative ways to think and conduct their play. They're coming up with new stories. They're coming up with new ways to use materials. And it's also a great outlet for expression of their emotions and for self-regulation. They can do this in a safe environment in a way that feels relevant to them. And it's really a good outlet and good form for them to use to explore these emotions.
So what we need to know as educators, we need to understand that children are going to play. They're going to always find ways that they want to join in the role playing and fantasy, make-believing. So it's important that we take our skills that we have and be able to enhance their learning and inclusiveness and how they're designed. So, to think of some students in your class, you might think of how some might need cue cards, some might need expectations on how to play with the materials. We want to have enough materials, but not too much to where it's overwhelming for some. And we want to know the ones that we might need to do a little more one-on-one to kind of integrate them into the play. They might not know how to enter a play group or how to share materials or use materials. We also want to keep in mind about allowing children the time to have this open-ended play between our daily schedules, where we might have what we see on the bottom, a more sit-down directed instruction, which might be like a circle time, learning time. But incorporating that open-ended play throughout the day. We don't know what these children are doing when they are home, and with the increasing of computers, tablets, TV, we want to make sure that we're providing them and facilitating those ideas while they're in our care. So we need to take on those roles that it's going to produce the most effective growth in their learning domain. So anything with cognitive, language, social, emotional, but by doing so, there's certain steps that we could do during play, such as being an observer, noticing their interests and recording that and using that in order to create future lessons and activities. A manager would be more so a child-initiated play, and we're there to scaffold any kind of ideas with props or asking all those Bloom questions, like what would happen if we, and so stuff like that. And then the co-player, kind of what we see in this photo is the teacher has the costumes, the props on. It looks like they're doing something with food, and she has it in her hand as well. So that co-player is there joining in, kind of feeding off of the child-initiated play, and then being able to interject ideas where she sees fit. And then another role would be a mediator, which would be modeling skills that they may need when they're solving problems or conflicts with the other children. Designing specific activities would be thinking about the different ways of between child-initiated and teacher-initiated. So an informal play might be more child-initiated, where the teacher is there to facilitate in those needs. Open-ended play would be more so like the prop boxes, giving them the ideas and the objects and seeing what they create with their imagination during those plays. Pantomime would be more gesturing, acting out actions. So what I think about is more like toddlers. You might show them acting out, brushing their teeth, combing hair, raking leaves, things like that. Improvisation, which is more so like a role-playing story play. That would be good to read a story with the children and kind of stop and have them create new endings to the story, or even retelling a story from the past. Being mindful with these specific activities that we want to base off of the children that are in our care. We want to create them a feeling of unity in the classroom, so any kind of cultural differences, any diversity that we can include in all these areas to really make them feel that they're a part of the classroom. So what we see in this photo above is the teacher more stepping back as being an observer, but being available to facilitate when she sees fit. The photo on the left kind of shows the teacher being more so one-on-one, co-playing with a child, which would really enhance their language skills. What I really enjoyed the most are the prop boxes. So this specific activity is based off of a grocery store. So like we see in the photos to the right, finding empty boxes of like things that we would buy at a grocery store, providing fake vegetable, fruits, foods, small reusable bags, some play money, registers, anything that they can use to really enhance their play. We want to make up a space for them to play with enough area, and setting up separate roles for the children. So one could be the cashier, one could be stocking shelves, one could be the customers. We want the students to really enhance talking with one another. So using those, the cashier asking, where does this go, or how much does this cost, and having those prices listed there so that they can incorporate that. So all of these things, prop boxes, they really do offer a representation of something that the children may experience at some point in their life, and it can also really benefit in the children practicing sharing and turn taking. So overall, we covered some benefits of the dramatic play, dramatic arts, and enhancing children's developmental growth, what we should know as educators, and how we can create purposeful activities and how we can incorporate them in our classroom. So thank you all for taking the time to listen.